It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. Welcome. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, so we were just talking about the general economy and just where we're going. Biden out there selling Bidenomics again. Bad move, but that's what he's doing. And we just started talking about, how we will be judging economies in the future. How will we be looking at it? For example, when we look at the United States, well, the United States is made up of a ton of different areas with a ton of different mindsets about how those areas should be run. And, part of what we have talked about and the country's been talking about is you take really the 5 biggest states and you say Texas and Florida are different than California, Illinois, and New York, right?
Yeah.
And that's been some of the great discussion. In fact, is that debate still on? I did see where, I think it was an NPR report saying that it seemed like some of the Newsom people were not particularly thrilled at, that this debate will be going on.
Yeah, I bet.
So,
I bet.
But again, that creates a buzz that comes from comes from COVID. Comes from COVID, then the cultural issues and everything else, and then the economy. They're all mixed into there, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
COVID, culture, economy.
Yeah, right.
And so there's, okay, wow, now that would be a debate. And what's that debate based on? That debate is really based on where people stand on the issues. Mm-hmm. There really isn't a personality difference there because they both have horrible personalities. I just had to say that.
Throw both of the bums out.
I don't care about personalities. I just said that I hope to get a bigger laugh when I said it. I amused myself out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other people I amused, but I got a kick out of it. No, but it's really, if you want to debate based on what people view as a difference in the actual issues that matter to people, that's the debate that you want. It's not based on personalities. It's not based on whether you won or lost an election. It's where you stand and how you operate as a society, which makes that a different kind of debate. Hopefully, a different kind of debate. So,
sure.
So we got talking about the economy, and so I was just going through Drudge, seeing what Drudge headlines have, and I went, "Oh, this is interesting." Dallas-Fort Worth, the new boomtown, and so it's Axios that did it. Why this story matters? Actually, they don't have it here. They have they have imagine San Diego, San Jose, New Orleans, Pittsburgh, and Boise all rolled up into the same metropolitan area. That would give you a sense of how many people now live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and the suburbs, major cities surrounding it. Mm-hmm. And they have Texas is one of 6 states benefiting from a massive southward wealth migration, which is pulling the U.S. economic center away from the Northeast. Business expansion and relocations are fueling the Dallas region's growth, putting it on track to overtake the Chicago area and become the 3rd most populous metro within a decade. The area is thriving because of its major airport, highway and rail access, and central location. It is also home to a number of major universities, producing a high-skilled and diverse workforce. The big picture, the region added more people than any other U.S. metro between July of 21 and 22, 170,000 new residents in a year.
Wow. It's crazy. In 1 year.
I mean, that goes, as I've said, in the 23 years I've been here, it added, 2.5 million people?
Yeah.
That's a major U.S. city right there, and it's actually going faster there. Now, with all these things, though, this is the thing that Axios had to throw in. Climate change, which is driving extreme heat and other hazardous weather, is so far not slowing growth in Dallas.
Okay.
You know, we're going through a hot period right now. It's summer and it's hot. And it looks like it's going to be hot still for the next couple of weeks. It's been hot for a month. I tell people, because I grew up in Buffalo, but I've lived all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said, you know, how I view it, it's really July and August. That's it, really, when you think about it. Maybe sometimes a little bit into September.
Yeah.
When it's really hot like this. Otherwise, this is a great temperate climate rest of the year. And you compare that to if you live up north and what you have to go through in wintertime, well, this is nothing. It really is. I mean, how I view it as somebody, you know, who grew up in the north, I'm like, well, no, this is our winter, but, you know, I'm out in the morning and can do a bunch of stuff in the morning. I'm outside in the morning. You can do a lot of things. And by the time it gets to be 11 or 12 o'clock, all right, you're in for the rest of the day. But if you got a pool, you're fine. You just jump in the pool all day. But it's, you know, you go through it for 2 months, and that's really it. And the weather the rest of the year is absolutely fantastic.
And I'm to the point now, I actually like the heat. Now, if I had to work 10 hours a day outside,
no,
that would be difficult. But I found, you know, and it's just the way you have to do things. You have to have a slower approach. Make sure that you're taking breaks and drinking plenty of water and fluids and everything else. But I like the warmer weather. The humidity has been lower, and the breeze has been greater during this heat spell we're in, generally speaking, and that makes it a lot more tolerable.
Yeah, so, but I love your climate change, which is driving extreme heat and other hazardous weather. Well, let's say it's gone up 0.5 degrees in the last 100 years. Would anybody know the difference here?
No.
It's not like this. This is why I object to this type of writing, because that is to me, that's a political activist sentence in there. And other hazardous weather. Climate change, which is driving extreme heat and other hazardous weather. How? When I first came here 20 years ago, was the hottest temperature they had in a while, and that was 112 degrees that year in 2000. And that was extremely dry, and then it rains. Yeah. And then when you come here, you realize, it's either sunny or monsoons. That's why they have the lakes, to control the flooding.
Yeah. In fact, I saw another forecast that typically during an El Nino period in the winter, it means a little bit cooler and more precipitation. So this may be one of those, hopefully it's only rain, but cold and rainy seasons that we get. And that was the case when I first moved here in the mid-'90s. The first winter or two, a lot of rain and just chilly. It wasn't freeze-pocalypse.
Yeah, and, it's another hazardous weather. We're in Tornado Alley.
Yeah.
Where the Arctic air meets the Gulf air. What do you expect?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, so it's, when you're a political activist, you put much more into it. I don't know anyone. The only thing I hear, and it's the same thing when I moved here 20 years ago, you got to be in Dallas. Doesn't it get hot? Yeah. And people from Buffalo, I went to a game one time in September at the old Dallas Cowboy Stadium. That was hot. Oh, yeah, that was an oven.
I went and saw the Eagles there in 93. Yeah, it was warm. It was warm.
Now you can go to almost all the ball games, and everything is air conditioned now.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's just interesting. I mean, how they write it. The fastest growing town, Fort Worth, was it 19,000 people moved in last year to Fort Worth, Texas. So
all right.
So there you go. It is I forgot it was somewhere in here where it was saying that Yeah, Fort Worth added 19,000 residents between July of 21 and July 22, more than any other single U.S. city. So,
yeah. Well, and, it was inevitable because companies were taking advantage of incentives and moving here. Irving, Texas, which is just a couple of miles as the crow flies from where we sit right now, has been a big draw. But also you get into the Frisco area, which is north of Dallas, and that's been a huge draw for headquarters, companies like Toyota and others that have moved here. And so when they do that, then they have to attract people in terms of filling those jobs that they have. And it just becomes, then other companies look at it and say, okay, so many people have already moved there. The talent pool, if we want to compete with other major employers in that area, the talent pool's already there. So we can do that and incentivize, and that's something that's going to be a cycle. I don't know how you break that, as long as companies see that incentive to come here, and people look at states like California and New York as unlivable. They can't afford to stay.
And we have massive, in state of Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston. You look at it, even Austin, and how fast Austin is growing, and the the I-35 corridor going down through San Antonio. There's a lot of population down there. Even McAllen's population is pretty big.
Yeah,
you don't think it's going to be as big as it is, McAllen, and you go down there and it's like, whoa, there's a lot of people there. You look at demographically the number of people, and it's huge down near the border.
Yeah.
And so, but there are still areas, for example, this is how economies go. There's a YouTube channel guy that I watch, which is basically deserted towns. He spends a lot of time in Texas, these small towns that may be just 80 miles from Dallas that are just got nothing. There's just nothing there. Texas is huge.
Yeah.
But you go to a lot of but when you look at it overall, and this all gets part of how will we be judging economies in the future? Will it be the country as a whole, or will there start to be a bigger breakdown and more publicized breakdown, for example, how Texas is doing, how Florida is doing? I see it already a little bit, because we're having the discussion, because it's almost well known seems to be and it shouldn't be a competition, but it naturally is. Capitalism causes that competition. And you've heard it the last year or so about the difference between Florida, Texas, California, Illinois, and New York, how they handled COVID, taxes, business, budgets, everything else. And I just wonder if that's how it's going to be judged more than just the overall country as a whole. I know you and I started looking at state GDP about 6-7 years ago, and we always bring that to everybody's attention. All right, here's a GDP of the states when the numbers come in. Which sets it apart. Problem with GDP is you can cover it up with stimulus spending, where it's not actually, are you becoming more productive as a society? You're moving money back and forth, which counts towards the GDP, and you're not looking at, for example, durable goods and services that increase the productivity, because it's productivity and the creation of wealth that actually drives an entire economy.
Right.
If you don't have that, you don't have a good economy.
Right.
And so the GDP is a figure which, that's why Biden's out there selling Bidenomics and infrastructure spending, infrastructure, invest. They believe that if they throw a ton of money, well, then the GDP will go up. But what they don't realize is inflation also goes up. And by doing this, what they think will help an economy, people now view it what? As hurting an economy.
Of course. But they don't have another game. They don't have another playbook.
No.
What are they going to do?
And so they're out there selling the same thing.
Yes.
Well, we're going to spend more money. We're going to spend more money. It's like when, who was it last week? Was it the Fed? Was it Atlanta Fed that came out and said, you got to stop the spending?
Yeah, was it the Atlanta Fed?
The Atlanta Fed came out. You got to stop the spending. You got to stop the spending. You can't be doing these stimulus projects. These stimulus would basically, as I call it, stimulus investment. We're investing. No, you're spending government money. You can't do that. You got to stop doing it. You're borrowing it, It's going to increase inflation. You can't do it. Janet Yellen comes out and says, all right, we've seen what they've said the problem is, so we're going to borrow and spend more money.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you do?
No, they don't. They don't have another playbook. They just don't. There is no scenario where someone like a Janet Yellen or Joe Biden steps up and says, hey, we're going to expand drilling and we're going to encourage private sector investment by deregulating and lowering taxes. Because if either of them stands up and says that, someone needs to check on them.
866-90 Red Eye.
Making sure students have healthy meals as they prepare for the upcoming school year.
Our broader approach to school nutrition is to show that we're supporting school nutrition operators in every way we can, while also working to move the ball forward on making school meals even healthier and tasty in a measured and achievable way.
Agriculture Deputy Secretary Xochitl Torres Small with reporters Monday, discussing the Healthy Meals Incentives Initiative and grants announced for school districts reaching students in our nation's highest need schools. The funding from USDA's Food and Nutrition Service is allocated as grants from Action for Healthy Kids. The organization's CEO, Rob Bisegli, explains.
Action for Healthy Kids has awarded $30 million to subgrants to 264 school districts across 44 states.
The awards assisting small and rural school districts with modernization of school kitchen facilities and improvement of nutritional quality of meals. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report is made possible by Cenex Roadmaster XL Premium Diesel and Citgo Lubricants.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, you now have the story out there. It's just drip, drip, drip every single day. FBI agent lied under oath about knowledge of Hunter Biden laptop and talks with Facebook documents reveal. Jim Jordan was all over the place yesterday saying that San Francisco-based FBI special agent lied under oath about discussions he had with big tech companies that suppress the New York Post reporting on the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop hard drive before the 2020 election. According to an internal Facebook document, Evan Chan made false statements about his communications with Facebook over the bombshell October 2020 reports. It revealed Hunter involved his dad Joe in business deals with foreign nationals. Internal communications obtained by the House Judiciary Committee show. A Facebook employee said in an October 15, 2020 message that he had spoken to Chan, who said he was up to speed on the FBI's probe of the Hunter Biden laptop and that there was no current evidence to suggest any foreign connection or direction of that leak. And when you look at it here, the conclusion, Jim Jordan flagged at least 2 times the FBI special agent appears to have lied in his testimony. Chan's claim, I was confident that I was not party to any meeting with social media companies where Hunter Biden was discussed outside of October 14th. The truth is, Facebook official internal message on October 15th, Facebook said they spoke with Elvis Chan as a follow-up call to October 14th. I asked Chan whether there was any update or change since a discussion on October 14th. And goes through what they actually talked about. And then the claim that Hunter Biden's laptop, I found out through the news media, I had no internal knowledge of the investigation. They found out that was false based on the internal memo from Facebook.
Yeah.
Looks like he lied.
Wow. Yeah.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Well, what we have here, we just mentioned every single day there's something else coming out. I mean, the Jim Jordan yesterday, I thought he was going to have a heart attack when he was talking about the FBI agent lying under oath. Big deal, though.
Yeah, sure.
Because you look at it, and from the documents that I've seen as to what he said, if you're going to be blunt, it's a lie.
Yeah.
There's a lie in there, so we'll see where that goes. Then the other story yesterday, Hunter Biden's former friend and longtime business partner visited the Obama White House and then Vice President Joe Biden's residence dozens of times between 2009 and 2016, likely to make him the next target of the House Oversight Committee's investigation into Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings. Does this now go to Obama? Because you have to ask the question. And we talked about this early on during impeachment number 1, that the State Department knew and was very uncomfortable with what Joe Biden's job was and Hunter Biden being on the Burisma board.
Yep. Clear conflict.
The conflict of interest bothered people in the State Department that made sure the White House knew about it. Why did the White House never react in any way? Why did they allow Hunter Biden to do what he was doing and still keep Joe Biden as the point person on Ukraine?
Right. You don't want to shake things up and draw attention to it, I guess. But what happened in 2016? Joe Biden wasn't the, and it typically would have been the nominee. A two-term vice president essentially is ushered through the process during the primary all the way to the top. But he wasn't. Was that the slap on the wrist?
Fox News Digital previously reported that Eric Schwerin had visited the White House and vice president residence at least 27 times during Joe Biden's vice presidency. However, a more extensive review found that Schwerin actually made at least 36 visits to the White House and to Joe Biden's residence during that time. Schwerin was a founding partner and managing director of Hunter Biden's now dissolved firm Rosemont Seneca Partners when he was appointed by then President Obama to the Commission for the Preservation of Americans' Heritage Abroad, an independent U.S. government agency, in early 2015. Obama reappointed him to the commission in January of 2016. Oh, boy. Eric asked for one of these the day after the election in 2008. Hunter Biden revealed about Schwerin's initial appointment in an email on March 13th, 2015. The number of Schwerin's White House visits could be much higher than 36 if any of his meetings fell under the White House voluntary disclosure policy exemption of purely personal guests due to his handling of the Biden family's personal finances. The White House will not release access records related to purely personal guests of the first and second families. The Obama administration's archived website says. One of Schwerin's visits in November of 2010 was a sit-down with Joe Biden in the West Wing. Schwerin also visited Joe Biden's residence at least 15 times for various holiday receptions, according to the December 12th holiday reception in 2015 that came a couple of days after then Vice President Biden's infamous trip to Ukraine, where he threatened to withhold $1 billion in U.S. funds. Wow. But now they're looking at Schwerin now as he's the next target. Will they bring him in for testimony And are the Republicans trying to tie him not only to Biden, but are they trying to bring Obama into this too?
Well, but you have to...
Got to ask the question.
You have to ask the question because there's no way that Obama wasn't aware of it.
We know the State Department was and contacted the White House on it, of their concerns of what Joe was doing.
Well, and this is what we have talked about, too. Outside of the former administration, those in Congress, in the Senate and the House, Democrats, that have been in office for a number of years, that were in office then, had to have known about it. This is why you're not seeing this rush to the door of everybody going, oh, well, sorry, we're going to separate ourselves from Biden. I mean, I'm guessing if everything came down and all the evidence in the money trail and everything were just solid, you would have the media going, well, we didn't know. Even the Beltway insiders that have been around for years, we didn't know.
Oh, the New York Times did.
Yeah. And then Nancy and Chuck, well, we're just as shocked as anyone. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's just horrible. But until then, you stay quiet.
Well, we were wondering where they were going to go now on this, and we said, oh, probably next it's the money trail. But if they're looking at Mr. Schwerin, it's like, okay, they're not done yet attempting to connect the dots of where Hunter's business partners were and who they talked to.
Right.
Because if it includes Biden, because that's the question you would have to ask. And we had talked about this when the impeachment one first started, and we said, well, wait a minute. Here's what we know. And remember, we brought the stories out there that existed about the members of the State Department who had contacted the White House, extremely uncomfortable because of Joe Biden's position in Ukraine to straighten up the corruption, and his own son, sitting on the board of what everybody knew was a corrupt oligarch in Ukraine, the head of Burisma. And so they were extremely uncomfortable about it. So certainly the White House knew about it and didn't clamp down and say, Joe is no longer, we're putting, whoever, the Secretary of State, anybody else is going to be the charge of Ukraine. You can't do it with your son having that particular job.
Right.
Can't do it. Sorry.
Right.
The rumors are too great as to what's going on, and I don't need that in my administration. But then, if Schwerin's visiting him all the time, Obama, and these are White House visits, are they White House visits to see Joe Biden, or are they White House visits to see, because a lot of them were separate from going over to Biden's personal residence outside of the White House.
Right.
So what is Comer looking into would be the question. And how long does this part of it now stretch out? Because now they're going to be talking to Schwerin, and I don't know if Bob Ulinsky's going to be pulled in again, or who else you have out there. I don't even know. There may be names we haven't even heard of who worked with Biden, and they haven't been brought in yet. All I know is I believe after McCarthy said that a couple of weeks ago and mentioned impeachment inquiry, that they believe that they're on the track where they have enough.
Well,
where they can safely start talking about that.
Because that process, imagine they came back in the fall, right? They come back after the August break and they get closer to that. And then all of a sudden it starts to come together in the fall. The impeachment inquiry process is going to bring so much evidence to the surface. At some point, Democrats have to abandon ship. And if there is anybody left, to answer your question, if there is anybody else out there that's even close to or was close to that fire, then they're going to have to talk. Otherwise, they're going to be implicated. And in whatever it is. Because either you knew and you didn't stop it, and who had that ultimate power?
Obama.
Barack Obama. Or you're going to try and get away with, I didn't know.
Because that's where we are now when this story came out. All right, they're seeing if Obama was involved in it, and they're close to releasing, much more evidence of the actual wire transfers, the actual, what they are claiming is illegal banking that was done, whether it's money laundering or what other charge you want to throw at it. That's where they're going. And we saw on the Sunday morning news show where Raskin really couldn't say anything.
Right.
I think they've sort of thrown what's his name overboard. The other guy, I can't think of his name. I got mind blank here.
Goldman.
Goldman.
Yeah.
Goldman. It's like every time he speaks, it's like when I hear
Goldman needs to stop talking.
When I hear Goldman speak now, I put myself into the position of his lawyer.
Yeah.
That's what I do. Because I'm like, okay, how's he going to blow it today? And he start talking. It's like, shut up, shut up, shut up. Now, I don't want him to shut up.
Well,
it's just I put myself as if I was his lawyer going, dude, shut up. You're not helping the case.
It just makes you want to ask him, how much is the GOP paying you?
Somebody said that. They go, is he? I think maybe. Somebody wrote me because remember, somebody said we have a mole somewhere.
Oh yeah,
that we must have a mole in the White House because of. And somebody said he's probably a Republican mole.
Well, no, I mean that's it. Every time he talks,
right,
he just keeps throwing Biden under the proverbial bus.
But when you see Raskin, they have really nothing right now, and they've gone from just 2.5, 3 weeks ago to no, he knew nothing. We stand with him. He knew nothing about his son's business activities. To now, it's the narrative is, and it isn't this much anymore because it was, oh poor Joe, he just loves his son so much, and his son took advantage of him, but Joe didn't know anything about it, and now it's to the point Joe loved his son, and so he knew what was going on in some of the business activity, nothing illegal, but he knew what was going on in his son's activities. But understand, he was just doing it because he loved his son so much. So leave the family alone. This is personal. How dare you get involved with the love between a father and his son? I mean, that's really where it's gone to now.
Yeah.
It's like, really? You're going to try to sell that one, huh? Well,
not going to happen.
Well, if love of the son meant illegal influence peddling, I don't care.
Yeah.
Let's be blunt.
Yeah.
If that's what love of a son is, well, since I love my son so much, I'll help him break the law.
I knew it was his only earnings potential. He was going through so much of his money on cocaine, he had to recover some of it somehow.
Would you want the other choice where he was stealing from stores in order to keep his habit going? No, right. I found him a much more productive way where we were able to take money away from those oligarchs.
That's right. It wasn't people here giving him money. Right. It was people from far away giving him money. It didn't affect our economy. Bidenomics.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And we were talking about the economy, how the president's out selling Bidenomics again, and and using the same figures that again have been very controversial because he's using figures of 13 million new jobs, and of course that's not true. What happened was when he became president, we still had a lot of jobs that had not come back because of COVID. People left those jobs and then went back to those jobs.
Right.
So those actually weren't new jobs created. It was due to that. But we have said, wow, it's just amazing that they're trying to sell it. And we read a Washington Examiner op-ed piece that was stating what we said. They don't seem to get it. It's inflation. Because it doesn't matter whether somebody's employed or not. It's whether they're underwater at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, I just went to the Babylon Bee and they have the perfect headline. This really explains the mindset of the White House. White House says Bidenomics is so successful, the average American has twice as many jobs as they had 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I could see her saying something like
No,
that.
that actually, right there, that I could hear coming out
I know.
of Jean-Pierre's mouth.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
It's the truth. When was the last time people could have 2 jobs?
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.